from around the world. Mike from around the world. Doing great. How are you, Mike?
Very good so far.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you for coming on board with us tonight. Got over 3,000 people here right now. Everybody anticipating a great program tonight. How's everybody doing your way?
Good. Everybody's good. Hanging on to their seats with seatbelts on and helmets and all that good stuff.
You better do that, all right? You better do that. Mike,
Yeah, it is.
Mike, real quick, we're going to ask you in a couple seconds about that image you sent us 2 weeks ago that we're biting. Everybody's biting their nails, asking if you would let us show it to the people tonight. But before you answer, we've had volcanism. Remember 6 years ago, you said there will be a time when volcanism will get extremely huge. Volcanoes will be erupting. A couple days ago, we had a massive volcano in Indonesia. This thing exploded, Mike, 12 miles high. I've never, Dutch Sense, who covers them every day, as well as myself for the last 9 years, I have never seen a volcano. It literally, the lava shot straight up. Okay. What is that about, Mike? And just about 5 hours ago, Mike, a dormant volcano off the coast of Russia had not erupted since 1924. It was sitting very quiet. There was no seismic activity, snow covered, just quietly sitting there. 5 hours ago, it blew its top. The explosion, the pictures are unbelievable, apocalyptic. So, Mike, what's going on? Lava shooting straight up in the air. What does that mean?
That's extreme activity below the crust of the earth. And there are a lot of pressure points right now, even as we speak, that are building. They will continue to build. It's still not enough of an eruption to alleviate the pressure building inside the earth, because right now some of the particles that are inbound, it is causing a massive instability inside the earth. So the earth is becoming. We're going to have some magma issues, and it's something when a volcano is dormant like that. The lava flow, that potential for that explosion is deep within the earth. So you don't really have surface alterations until it reaches a flash point. And then once it reaches that flash point, once that pressure inside is higher than the pressure holding it in, it pops. And so we have that issue all around the globe. And what that really means, think of places that no one would think of. That, say, for instance, the U.S. On the East Coast, that's not a place you think of a volcano being, right, on the East Coast. So just imagine one day, no indication, none whatsoever, all of a sudden, somewhere on the East Coast, the waters begin to boil. People are burned who are on the beaches or something like that, but something underneath the ocean exploded with magma. And so with no indication whatsoever, the land masses, the same way. There's the Appalachian chain is a very old mountain range, and the push-up on that mountain range, it is a known fact that there's magma deep within the earth right underneath it.
You're talking...
If it continues to build, you can have eruption points along the Appalachian Mountains.
Really? You're talking Eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia?
Yeah, that entire span could actually become that's a massive instability point. Now, take in mind, say something were 800 feet or maybe even 4 miles below the surface of the earth, right? You had a magma chamber. If the pressure's building, if it has no relief point, it's going to continue to build until it pops, until that pressure inside overwhelms some of the weight that's holding that down. And so you have to have a relief point. Well, those fracture points in the crust of the earth are the relief points, right? So you're looking at dormant volcanoes. You're looking at volcanoes that have not been quite, they've been identified by satellite. The U.S. is riddled with volcanoes. But we long since built cities over top of them and everything. And the topology of the U.S., as they show on maps, is a bit different from what's happening underneath the soils. So we have that potential all over the world, but specifically in the U.S., there's a huge potential. Italy as well. Italy will be the same scenario. Hardly any indication.
Yeah.
And then
you keep bringing up Italy quite often, that you're expecting something massive to erupt under Italy, including Rome itself, would be major effective. I mean, you are. I think you believe there's going to be a massive earthquake. If would it also include a major volcanic eruption?
Yeah, it would. In fact, the volcanic eruption, the shifting of that landmass will cause some bad damage. And I am expecting of something like that happening fairly soon. Unfortunately, because the pressure inside the Earth is building to a flashpoint, to a breaking point. It's about to pop in many different places. And as I said before, we would need hundreds of eruptions just to partially balance some of the pressure that's building up.
Now, this pressure you're talking about, this core, the core heating up, of course, you're saying that's because of incoming particles, incoming waves of energy, and which is being captured by our magnetosphere, but then being thrown through the poles on into the core of the Earth. That's heating the core. Am I right?
Exactly. That same process happens with the sun on a continuous basis. But with some of these more exotic particles coming in, you're dealing with high radioactive particles and high charged particles coming in that we normally don't get in this this type magnitude, right? So you're looking at a density of particles coming in, and the Earth is soon to be overwhelmed with those particles. People will see, they will notice this, because the auroras, the north and southern auroras, will begin to join across the land masses, which means us in the U.S., all over the place in the U.S. and Europe, everybody will be able to see some type of aurora activity in the upper atmosphere. That will become common. People will think it's beautiful, but it will be the beginning of a very bad time.
You know, Mike, I saw a picture just this morning of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, France. They lit it up in gold color, but the sky was noctilucent clouds. It was not what's it, Heidi? Noctilucent. Excuse me, noctilucent. Is that correct? Am I close, Mike? What is it? Well, I mean, they're saying that they're saying over Paris they didn't expect to see this kind of a sky. It's spectacular. I mean, is that part of this? The auroras are moving all the way into Oregon, and they're seeing them, in Idaho and places.
It will continue to. Those are high-speed collisions taking place in the upper atmosphere, and it really does. It traces the magnetic field lines, of the natural magnetic field lines of the Earth. But so imagine instead of the aurora borealis, you see that up in the northern regions and some of the southern regions. Imagine seeing that all over the U.S., right? And they'll be really not so visible in the daytime, but when the sun sets, that's when people will begin to notice that there's something different happening with the clouds. So it always begins, even in simulations, the clouds are different colors. They're brilliant colors. And people will begin to notice this. What they won't realize is that the Earth at that point, when this continues week after week after week, the Earth will be inundated with high radioactive particles, which means it's overturning internally.
Okay, so it's again that radiation. You keep talking about the radiation level now 18% higher than it was 3 years ago. Mike, radiation, it's radioactive.
It'll continue. It will continue. And a buildup, speaking of flashpoints, it's almost like a match. A match is harmless, right? Unless you strike that match and then you have an ignition point, right? Once it ignites, then you have a chemical change. You have a substance change. You see that flame. Well, so long as you don't strike a match, it's harmless. Correct? And it's very difficult to tell how much pressure it takes to strike a match for it to light. Well, the same thing is happening with the Earth. It will go from a point like it is today. It will continue to build as far as radioactivity on the inside. It'll continue to emit gamma radiation. That's increasing also from inside the Earth. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have this reaction. No warning whatsoever. There will be zero warning. The only warning will be subtle warnings and behaviors of animals, behaviors of people. People will not escape the behavioral changes in animals that take place, it's going to take place in people too.
It's unbelievable, Mike, what's going on. Mike, the people have been begging me now. You've got this picture. Would this be the time to show it and let people see it without revealing a whole lot of information? Can we put this picture on the screen that you sent us 2 weeks ago?
That's a tricky one because they really haven't bought something alike yet. I'll tell you what you can do, Pastor Paul. I'll tell you what you can do.
Okay. We can show it without saying anything.
Well.
Okay, what can we do? Oh, there's a pressure.
I wouldn't do that yet.
Okay. Well, hold it back. Hold it back, Brock.
Here's why.
Okay.
What you see in that picture,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's an origins picture which explains something to everybody that will be needed, right?
Ugh.
If it's.
But now I've looked at it, Mike. I've stared at it. I've turned it every which way. I've looked at it. It is different, and I can't. I don't know what to say. Okay, I don't have the answer.
Well, I tell you what. Let's do this, Pastor Paul. Sometime this week coming up, I'm going to give you a call. You give me a call. We'll have a discussion about that and 3 other ones. Okay.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll do something with one of the 3 other ones, but I'm going to have to let you know what that is.
Okay.
Let you know everything about that thing. It's
Okay.
not altered or anything. That is how it is. That's how it is right now. It's just like that right now. So we'll have that discussion so you can understand what that is. All right. Then you can decide with one of those images to give a quick flash on the screen or whatever.
Okay. But not till.
Sooner or later, though.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, here's the not so good thing is that. We're really moving into a different zone period. The entire Earth is, the entire solar system is. It's only a matter of time when people begin to ask some very difficult questions. And the sickness, one of the sad parts about this is the sickness that will take place, which will accompany it. And these things, they worry me about other folks because we live a lifestyle right now where we're passive about so many things. There's no consequence of what we're doing. But we're going to entertain some very real physical happenings in this earth. And I just personally don't believe that people are prepared to mentally get through that time. And because you're going to have adults as well as children who undergo this.
Okay,
right?
so
somehow, especially the Christians have to get in this mental capacity where they are ready to accept that this flesh is temporary, but the spirit is forever. And somehow they're going to have to be strong enough to get over the fact that they're going to see some things they don't want to see. On a minuscule scale, this happened in World War I and World War II. People didn't want to see carnage or anything like that, right? But as far as sickness, people getting sick, plagues, that's what I'm talking about. That will increase as the immune system in us is compromised due to exotic particles coming into this portion of occupation for the earth.
All right, so folks, I think I understand what Mike's saying. We can't reveal this yet because of the reaction until we get Mike's got to protect. We got to do this. He and I are going to have a conversation this week. We're going to look at that picture plus 3 others, and then he's going after he tells me what it is. Then I can then reveal one picture without saying much about just showing it. Okay, let me okay, Mike. We're going to have that discussion, and then we'll agree. You'll explain to me what it is so that I can get myself, and then I'll have a better understanding why you're so apprehensive of showing it. And I respect that. And so that's why we will work together on this. All right, so folks, you heard it here. Okay, so give us another week or so. We'll be ready to reveal something to you. Okay, and I think that's fair. And it might have to be over. Again, we'll have this conversation until Mike tells me what I've seen. Then I'll have a better feel how in the world we bring that forward and when we should. Okay, but certainly we'll show you something. So okay, Mike. Radiation. Okay, I put my sunglasses on tonight because I'm wondering, radiation affects the mind, it affects the skin, it affects the body. Does it affect the eyes?
Does it affect what now? Say again.
Your eyes. Does it affect people's eyes, their vision,
Yes.
the retina?
Yeah, it affects everything. It affects radiation. Actually, can penetrate the nucleus of. It can actually break apart your DNA, right?
What?
Which is what causes cancer. And it can also be used to treat cancer. But it can break a DNA strand. Radiation is dangerous. It's very dangerous. And it's cumulative, which means it builds up over time. The long run is it can compromise your immune system. It can alter magnetism. It can really alter magnetism. It can cause certain electronic properties and equipment to malfunction, act very strangely. You can actually reverse polarity in lithium, which is not good because most of us have some sort of lithium cell near us, which can turn into an explosive device. Given too much radiation, it can do a host of things, but biologically, it is very destructive, extremely destructive, and so. A lot of people in the passive in the sunlight. I always give people advice: if you go out in the sun, you need some super SPF, to kind of block the rays. But I wouldn't hang out in the sun too long because it's extremely destructive. The sun is not how it used to be 5 years ago. It's very different. And the darkening of the sun after the brightness of the sun changes, the light is really going to begin to change emitting from the sun. And what that is our atmosphere is becoming a little more dense than usual. So it will begin to alter everything from air travel to anybody going outside. But yeah, it can damage the eye.
What about, do you expect to be more seizures? Or people going to be having, I know it's going to alter personalities. Animals are already reacting. Do you see more people having more seizures and stuff from the waves of energy that's coming in from this binary system?
Disease.
Disease.
It can totally radiation can really compromise your immune system, and our brains, the human brain. I'll say this about magnetism again. A tiny magnet can alter a person's perception of this world. So imagine most of the populace becoming paranoid, extremely paranoid, experiencing paranoia because of a magnetic change in the properties of the earth. That means people will become twice as violent as they usually are. Right now, it goes so far as to say that a lot of people are having an issue maintaining themselves in certain areas of life where they could once tolerate certain things. They can't do that anymore, and they have to avoid it altogether. That shortening of control of attitude and emotions is in no small part due to certain magnetic changes in the magnetosphere, right? Because our thinking process, some of our emotions are intimately tied to some of the processes in the magnetosphere, right? Our flesh, our bodies are tied to that. But which is why spiritually, if one builds up spiritually, they can override all things in the flesh. It's not like being in pain, but you don't show pain on your face. You're not trying to avoid the pain. The body's in pain, but you still keep a level head. So it's somewhat comparable to that. But we know in most cases when a child is in pain, they're not going to have a level head, right?
So Mike,
they have not experienced that enough. So spiritually, the flesh could be totally out of whack. People are having swelling, more swelling than usual. I'm going to give you some of the symptoms that people are having right now.
Okay.
I'll say this out of boldness, not that I've checked or anything, but I guarantee they're having swelling. Certainly when the sun goes down, they're having a swelling. When the sun goes down, right, whether there's a storm or not, which should, make people think. Second, their sleep habits have altered big time, right?
Yeah.
The dreams, some of the dreams that people are having are becoming quite, let's just say quite
weird,
involved, vivid. Let's just say vivid and involved, quite different. Vivid and involved, meaning that a lot of people, because because I'm saying all of this based upon how the body reacts to radiation. If they're dozing off in the daytime, that's probably when the vivid dreams are striking. Some of the crazy dreams. But all of that is a result of a compromised biological organism that's been exposed to a change in the magnetic field around it, which changes chemicals and hormones and everything else. But the degradation of the immune system is going to cause fatigue. It's going to cause skin issues. Like if people are probably having skin issues, swelling. The breathing has changed. Lots of people right now are probably going through or who have had any type of cardiovascular issues. They're probably having a tough time breathing, from time to time. And these things will increase. And there's a reason for that, right?
Yes.
This radiation is affecting all biological
And it
organisms.
just keeps coming back to the same thing, Mike. You're talking about radiation and all the effects of it, the breaking down of the molecules, the DNA of the body, the organs are affected, the mind, the skin issues. The Bible says that in the last days, we're going to hear about, false Christ. Yeah, false Christ, false prophets. We got that. We're going to hear of wars, rumors of wars. We're seeing that. Nations arise against nation. We got that. There's also be this pestilences, okay? Diseases, these pestilences, these plagues, along with famines, earthquakes, and all the other things. But boy, Jesus does make this a point, and he doesn't just make it in Matthew 24, but he reiterates it in Luke 21 and in Mark 13. And when you go to Revelation, Mike, he literally talks about the angel pours out this vial upon the sun. The sun starts to scorch men with heat. And instead of repenting, they blame God, they mock God, they blaspheme God as they gnaw their tongues for pain. Is this what you're saying? And is Nibiru or Planet X, is this help bring these symptoms on?
Well, I'm sure it does. These pulses are coming from somewhere. And you know what, Pastor Paul, regarding those sets of scriptures, when a person, we as Christians, when we're looking for something from God, a lot of people pursue the Father, right, and Christ to get something from him. If they don't get it, or they feel they're not going to get it, that's when they turn on him, right? Some people follow Christ just to get something from Christ.
Yes.
But, it's advisable that, as for me, I'll follow Christ because of the cross. What he did for me, he did a long time ago. So even if I get nothing today, it does not discourage my faith in any way because he did everything at the cross. But a lot of people will pursue him to get something. When an evil person follows any faith to get something and they don't get it, they end up hating that faith the most. They do. They
wow.
Just like that. I've seen that all throughout my life. I've seen the same thing happen over and over again. So can you imagine, with the earth undergoing some pretty challenging conditions and people are going through some pretty challenging times, what the people will be like when they feel there is no God or that God has turned their backs on them? They're going to hate him. Because even in Revelation, I noticed something. How can a person hate God so much if they never knew him? Which kind of tells me that these folks that hate God the way they do, they were once following something of the faith.
Yeah.
And they had turned sour in some sort of way.
Well, Mike,
and this is that beginning point for that. These times that we're going through now, really, they're really going to begin to change people. We'll see that politically. We will. All of us have to be careful because all of us have these soft points in us. There are things that we can't, that we have to really watch ourselves on. Because if we get emotionally bound up in some of the stuff that's happening in the world, we're not, we could easily shift or move over to the way the world acts, which is not good for us. But given all of what's coming in the sights we're going to see, the sky, when it's a 100% golden color, right? It will likely be plasma conduits coming down from the atmospheres down to the surface of the earth like lightning, but it will stay there for a few seconds, which will burn things on the ground. Weird things like that will happen. People will begin to feel that they have been abandoned, right? And that's when it's really going to be a time for faith. And that's not even I don't believe that will be the wrath of God either. I believe these are developing events prior to the wrath of God.
I do too.
Right before the wrath of God, the children, we won't think the same anymore, right? We're not going to think the same. We're going to have, strength will be added to us, to those who really believe. But we have some very challenging things coming, like war. War's coming. And that's not going to be averted or avoided. That's coming.
It's coming.
And most of this world is going to have some type of, people might as well, I know they probably don't want to hear this, but if they can't see it forming over time, I don't know what to tell them, but we're going to have some type of oversight that has nothing to do with our faith, right? It seems like everything is turning against Christianity.
Let me jump in there. Someone said Paul Begley brings a heretic to the program. No.
What is?
You have to first understand the Bible. Everything this man just said is in the scripture. I've read it 100 times, so obviously you're new to the program. And so I give you a break. There's 4,000 people here for a reason. They're tired of sitting in dull churches, listening to little happy, little fluffy puffy messages, doing nothing to help get their people saved. The reality is this: everything he just said. First of all, there's confusion between the wrath of God and the tribulation period. The wrath of God, Christians will not suffer. Okay, we can read in the Bible. He's not appointed us under wrath. But what leads up to the wrath of God? God's wrath is his judgment. But what man does to each other, wars, rumors of wars, hatred. And when he talked about people will start hating what they once loved, can I tell you two things I've seen in 35 years of ministry? I see men and women hate each other after they loved one another. They will turn on each other and then not only separate and go separate ways, literally will hate each other. And I've also seen people who love the church, who love Jesus, who love their pastor, love their congregation, turn and hate them. I've seen people love God for a while and then all of a sudden turn and hate him. Study the scriptures. The Bible tells you they will forsake their first love and they'll become reprobate minds. This is all through the Bible. It's not fluffy puffy. It's not what you came to hear. And that's fine. There's other channels that's got that. But let me be honest with you. If you want to make it to heaven, you're going to have to understand in the last days, men will be scoffers, mockers, who will come and they will say, where's the promise of Jesus returning? And guess what? Jesus hasn't returned yet. And until he does, this world is going to get more wicked. There's 4,000 people here right now. Mike, let's stop for a second. There's a blood moon going to rise. It's coming in a few days. The heavens are shaking. Brock, let people know how they can get these powerful DVDs to understand the time we're in. We'll be right back with Mike.
A brand new DVD, Blood Moons and Prophetic Signs. We're taking a very close look at the historical, biblical, and prophetic signs in the Bible, from the solar eclipses to the blood moons to the midnight hour of these the last days. What does the heavens mean by shaking, the earthquakes, and other events going on? Get this DVD. Get it now at my website. Released from Cincinnati, a 4-part DVD set on the end times. Planet X, Nibiru, the seas rising, the pole shift, Clyde Lewis, John Moore, Stephen Ben-Danoon, and myself, bringing forth dynamic information relevant to the last days. You can get this 4-part DVD set at my website or individually at my Patreon channel. The heavens are shaking. This is a must-see. Get it now.
All right, we got Mike around the world with us tonight. Why we would we stop in the middle of the flow and just share that information quickly? Because on that information, the Heavens Are Shaking DVD is 4 hours. It helps break down the effects of the planet and what we're experiencing and going to experience as Planet X makes its pass by. It matches historical, biblical, and prophetic events according to the Bible. And some people don't even know this event is even coming. We want to help them get the DVD so they can learn much more. You should hear the people begging me for these. How can they understand more about these times? Mike, let's get on with what we're talking about. You talked about this plasma making effects. Can you help walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. First of all, lightning is a form of plasma, right? That's generated from storms that are bound within our atmospheres. So what's going to happen when the thermosphere continues to increase in its density? And by the way, do you know how hot it is out there in the thermosphere? Because you have the troposphere, stratosphere is above that, mesosphere, thermosphere. Thermosphere is hot. It is very hot. It's extremely hot.
Wow.
And some of the temperatures recorded, right, are plus 5,000 degrees for a very good reason. So now, because there's not a lot of molecules, not a lot of particles up there, the heat is not carried. Most of the heat that people feel down here is infrared heat, right, which travels all the way down through the stratosphere right to the surface of Earth. All the other atmospheres block X-rays, extreme UV, far UV, middle UV, and near UV. They're blocked, right? But the atmospheres are about to have an issue, a problem. And with a change in the atmospheres, you're going to have more X ratings, more extreme UV in all spectrums, up to from 10 millimeter up to, or nanometers up to 300, 400 nanometers. You're going to have that penetrating into the Earth. Not to mention, the more it penetrates, more the some of the more exotic emissions from the Earth will then go back up into the atmosphere. Well, with the introduction of particles, you also have electrons. You also have protons. So there's going to be an energy exchange between the two, and a generation of something like lightning, but probably about maybe 100 times or 200 times more potent than lightning. More sustainable. So basically, you're looking at, I don't know what to call it, super bolt. That's kind of sensational, but something like people would imagine a super bolt would be, a super bolt of lightning. They did a study in the last 10 years, lightning, when it strikes, is lasting a bit longer than what it used to. Now, that difference of it, lightning is strong anyway, but the bolts, the lightning bolts, right, once it makes a connection from the clouds to the Earth, they're staying a lot longer than what they used to.
What?
And we're talking about it's an incredible thing.
Plasma. You're
lightning being sustained. You know, when it hits the ground, that's happening right now.
Yeah, it's called. You're calling this because of plasma bolts. Plasma. Mike, another question on this. Now, people are begging me. Is asked. You know, just recently we've had unbelievable 1,000 earthquakes swarm off the coast of California. And also the Cascadia subduction zone. We had several mid-sized earthquakes, boom, 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 off the coast of Oregon. People are wondering, I mean, why is this happening? And I didn't mean to jump in on the lightning from plasma, but continue.
Well, wouldn't that, if you stick an egg in boiling water for too long, right, the shell is going to crack to pieces as the inside. The shell's pretty tough.
Yeah.
But if the inside gets too hot, right, the materials swell. Right, they're going to boil outward, and so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing the Earth as a whole, being far too active on the inside, beginning to swell. It's swelling from the inside out due to heat and oceans. Some of the superheated water inside the Earth is trying to find its way out, and so with these temperature changes and with more and more rock melting in places where it shouldn't, right, you're going to have a swelling of the lands. And with that swelling of the lands, you're going to have these relief points that take place. You're going to have small cracks. Believe it or not, earthquake swarms, they can be indications of volcanic activity or even larger earthquakes. But believe it or not, if you have enough earthquake swarms, call it mercy, because especially if it's not near or not there, call it mercy, because without these earthquake swarms can be indicative of a few things, and it really depends on the depth and the topography of what you're looking at, the land masses, how deep the crust goes with regarding rock and regarding soils and things of that nature. So if you evaluate California, though, right?
Yeah.
It's continually shifting. But recently, right, after they did measurements of the lands moving, recently they found that the lands moving apart from each other and some of the subduction zones around the world, period, have slowed down. That's not good news.
No.
Right? Because that's going to cause pressure points to pop up in places where it shouldn't. So we're going to, you have dormant volcanoes. California is riddled with volcanoes.
Oh.
And all of a sudden they're having activity in certain spots where these volcanoes are located. So the swarms in this case would be probably related to some of these volcanic chambers that are in there, right? Some of these lava tubes and volcanoes that have been some.
But Mike,
some not so dormant.
Okay, now you. I think you said maybe 3 weeks ago that there's about 13 volcanic areas along the coast of California, and tonight you broke some news to me that blew my mind. Is that don't look out? There could be some volcanoes going off. I heard you say volcanoes going off in Appalachia. I mean, is this all from the pressure from the Planet X or Nibiru? Yes.
Yeah, well, I would say it's something popping in. Something is feeding. Something sending out pulses of radioactive particles. both from outside of our solar system. Lots of, we're just being inundated with exotic particles. You know, for anybody out there that says, well, you know, that's not going to happen, that's fine. I just hope you just understand when these things begin to take place, when the earthquakes and the volcanoes, specifically volcanoes, begin to go off, and the air quality is real bad, right? Then people can understand what's taking place, because it will 100% take place. You know, we're not going to have a nice atmosphere for long. And when this does happen, Pastor Paul, it's going to begin. The coastal regions are going to be the worst regions to be in because of the humidity, right? Right before everything dries up, period. Because with these changes and with volcanism, you're going to have a depletion of certain storm formations, so the natural conveyor and the potential for the atmosphere to withhold water is going to be all but gone. That means no rain whatsoever. So actually the rain right now is a blessing, although it's messing up everything, right? It's a blessing, because soon all this will change. It will change. And a lot of this is happening from external forces. And there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Now, Mike Brown, former NASA scientist who's discovered more planets than anybody else ever. Mike Brown, who's searching every night for Planet X or Nibiru or planet number 9, made a statement today that planet number 9, he's 90% sure that there is a planet number 9 because of all the other effects going on. I guess the gravitational pull and the waves of energy. Can you expand on Mike Brown saying, is that Planet X, Nibiru, is that a dwarf star? Is that the same thing we're talking about here?
Yeah, anything, an object out there. He's saying that, well, if there's a planet 9, then what system is it involved with? And what is it actually? So there's too much going on right now, too many forces out there. The better we can see out in space, the more we begin to realize there's a lot of stuff out there. But most importantly, there's a lot of things affecting the Earth that have never been spotted before that are starting to show up now. There are things that scientists thought were impossible, right? But when they see it with their own eyes, well, then you have a different story. And when you have atmospheric shifts taking place in the Earth, many of the observations in the Earth tell you that every force that we have been dealing with that has been stable for so long is fluctuating, it's changing. Gravitational pull, it's changing. Right?
Yes.
The position of the Earth, the wobble of the Earth, it's altering, it's changing. Everything is changing.
That's in the Bible, Mike. There
has to be an external force out there. They're no longer thinking, well, maybe something could be out there. But due to some of the forces and interactions and things that they're seeing in other planets, remember, these guys are privy to information, data that comes in from satellites and other planets are experiencing things too. It'd be one thing if it were just the Earth, but it's not just the Earth. It's everything in the solar system. So you're looking at something that is of magnitude, something that has some power. And if they were to see a cluster inbound, right, that belonged to a bigger cluster, then that's the day they're going to be 99% sure. That means they're absolutely sure. Right? But there's a possibility, there's a chance that maybe it'll miss us, maybe it'll go somewhere else, maybe they saw the wrong thing. But if they ever say 99% sure that there's a planet 9, then the next thing you need to look for is when is the proximity change going to take place? Because it does not have to be close to us to wreak havoc in our solar system. Well, I think that's what a lot of people don't understand.
You know,
it doesn't have to be close.
You don't have to be close. As a matter of fact, when you read that book, Worlds in Collision by Emmanuel Velikovsky, he says that the last time that Planet X or Nibiru went by 3,600 years ago, it was during the time of the plagues of Egypt. And it created not only the plagues of Egypt, but it created chaos. The Mayans recorded it. The Peruvians recorded it. The North American Indians recovered it. I mean, Clyde Lewis in the DVD we have called The Heavens Are Shaking breaks this down for people in his 1-hour speech he gave in Cincinnati. I have studied the book of Emmanuel Velikovsky. I've read it, and I studied it with the Bible, and I've seen that Isaiah 24, the events of Isaiah 24 are going to happen, Mike. They haven't happened yet. It's going to happen, and I think you would probably agree that the effects of this object, this huge mass going by, you don't have to get too close. It's so big, it's affecting the whole universe. Am I right?
That's true. And with its proximity to the sun, because there were points in history where everything, all the rocks, the magnetic poles of the rocks were so sporadic that the only thing that could do that is another object near or close to the gravitational pull of the sun being in our proximity. I believe that this other system has objects around it. Those other objects also have debris clouds and things of that nature, which comes in proximity to us. We pick up parts of the debris, but that major force that the Earth tends to deal with comes from something very close to some type of a dwarf object, dwarf star object, or twin sun. And the reason why I'm so stuck on a binary system is because some of the perturbations, some of the mathematical perturbations for celestial mechanics, everything actually works out with a dual system. It won't work out with a triple system, right? But with a dual star system, it works out, which means we don't have to see the second sun. It could be a small red speck in the distance, but its planets, that's a different story. Look how far out Pluto is. Look how far out Jupiter is, right?
Right.
If we were to collide with another system, they would have an issue with Jupiter.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have an issue with the Earth. They would have an issue with Jupiter. They wouldn't have an issue with the Sun. They would have an issue with Jupiter. And so it is my firm belief that this second system, being part of this system, gives a mathematical answer to some of the perturbation. And because the mathematical formulas based on what most people believe, they don't work.
No.
They won't work. They don't work. A single system, the mathematics for the orbits of the planets, it does not work. It won't work in a simulation. You can have the best. Einstein said, all the great scientists said the same thing. It does not work. It doesn't work. But they've been forced to deal with what they can see.
Folks,
that's the problem.
Folks, just know that this is Mike around the world. Mike from around the world has been coming on our show periodically over 6 years. Is done everything the man's brought about what's coming, what's going to happen. Every prediction, extreme weather conditions, straight line winds, thunderbolt lightnings, volcanism rising, earthquakes. I mean, we could go on forever. He told us it would happen 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and the waves of energy. So trust me. Now, also, Mike believes the Bible, and he. Isaiah 24 talks about a pole shift, all these things. That was actually in the Bible. Gil Brazard, somebody just brought up Gil Brazard. Gil Brazard is going to be one of our speakers in the conference we're getting ready to hold. It's coming up. We'll be announcing the date on that and location very soon. He is going to be one of the speakers. We've already locked him down. And we're working on another scientist also to come on board, as well as other speakers. John Moore's already locked down. Okay. Clyde Lewis, I think, is locked down. We got to get the right date and get the schedules right for everybody. So what I'm trying to tell you is, Mike around the world. Too bad we couldn't have him walk in and speak. It would be amazing. But this is why we do this periodically. Matter of fact, Mike, you just brought something up about the pole shifts and the effects of this binary system. And that is one of the things that John Moore brings out in this DVD, The Heavens Are Shaking. Brock, play that for everybody. So we got people who don't even know about the DVD. Play it real fast, 30 seconds.
Released from Cincinnati, a 4-part DVD set on the end times. Planet X, Nibiru, The Seas Rising, The Pole Shift, Clyde Lewis, John Moore, Stephen Bendanoon, and myself, bringing forth dynamic information relevant to the last day. You can get this 4-part DVD set at my website or individually at my Patreon channel. The heavens are shaking. This is a must-see. Get it now.
There are people that are out there right now watching. There are people watching right now out there who have already gotten this series, this 4-part DVD, and they'll tell you it's some of the best information on this ever. Mike around the world is confirming what these guys are already saying and has been giving us this information for up to 6 years. So certainly we're anxious to hear other information he has that he gives us a little bit at a time. And we can't create. Look, the main thing is you got to give your life to Jesus Christ, okay? You can't live your life in fear. You have to understand the Lord hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but love, power and a sound mind. But the Bible says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Some people say, why tell us about this stuff, Paul? Because you'll be destroyed if you don't have a lack of knowledge. You won't know why things are happening. People will ask you what's going on. You won't know because you never studied it. You never heard about it. You know, you sit and listen to some little soft little message like a pillow. And then all of a sudden, when things really start happening around you, they're going to say, well, I thought we were going to be gone before this. Because people don't even know the difference between the tribulation period and the wrath of God. They're two separate issues. Everybody's got it confined into one. I'm not preaching doctrine to you. I'm preaching the biblical truth to you. And what's happening, we're even getting proof from it from scientific minds and people with intelligence information like Mike around the world. And Mike never reveals anything that is confidential or classified. He only gives us the things that are out there but are just not being published by your mainstream media. Believe me, even scientists don't even report everything they know for fear of people's reaction, panic. Because if people really knew what was coming, well, if people really believe the Bible, which tells you what's coming, you'd be freaking out unless you're saved. Mike, one last question. I mean, we're going to talk before what's next week, Heidi? What's next Thursday? What am I doing? Am I traveling? What?
I think it's the 4th of July.
It's the 4th. No. Mike, how about the 11th? Can you come back in 2 weeks? And between then and now, let's you and I talk. That'll give you and I time to talk about the picture you sent me. You could send me the other 3. Let's talk about it. You tell me what it is I'm looking at. And maybe we can reveal something on the 11th. I think the anxiety level is too high. They got to get something on this photo.
Okay. Well, I'm sure out of the 3, we can give them at least an image.
Okay.
And just, let them ponder that for a while because they're going to be told what that is probably by just about everybody.
I would like to be the ones that tell them too. A little, like you said, soon that's coming. The revealing's coming. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you'll need to tell me what that is so I can pick myself off the floor and prepare myself to help the sheep.
Yeah, we'll have discussion. Pastor Paul, you were saying something. If I can say something real quick.
Yes, you can.
When you know things beforehand, right? Trouble is coming beforehand. When that trouble comes, you won't give up. Because at least you'll know that somebody in the body of Christ knew this and that the Lord did not abandon you. That's important because that happened to me in combat a couple of times, right? Yep. I wasn't always promised good days. And when it got really rough, because I knew in the Bible, what it said in the Bible, that saved my soul in the middle of combat. I said, well, no, the Lord said these days were coming. I know you're still there, which gave me courage to continue to go and nothing disturbed my faith. But for the folks who don't know the trouble is coming, they're going to get out there. They won't know what to expect. They'll say, this is not supposed to happen to me. And they're more prone to give up on the Lord in that case, and their souls will not be saved, because in Thessalonians 8 it says what? In flaming fire the Lord will come, taking vengeance on them that know not God.
Yeah.
And that obey not the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
He's not all of this bad stuff is not purpose to kill us.
No,
right?
no.
It's purpose to fully deliver us. That is part of our victory. But for those who are to be punished, it is their doom. Not our doom. Right? So people know that beforehand. They'll be better equipped to keep their faith, and Satan will not be able to speak to them in their ears.
And that's why we have to bring this truth forward, folks, and not a heretic gospel. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
All right, God bless. See you in 2 weeks. We'll talk before then. God bless.
Will do.
God bless.